Hey there, Wendy here with Jazzydoodledesigns, and today we're going to do a color along in the mythographic book Paradise. This is a thank you to one of my subscribers, Kimberly, who has been so supportive of the channel, always commenting, liking, and sharing my name in groups, and I'm very grateful. So I told her to pick a page and pencils and I would do a color along, and she chose this Peacock page, so let's get started. So my thought is I'm going to come in with a dark purple here, and then the moon is going to be kind of a white and light purple, and our peacocks are going to be the traditional royal blue, kind of black and white, and then down into the teals, blues, and purples here. And then we'll follow it into the water with some lighter colors here, and then getting into, getting darker as we go down with some purple / purple pink flowers, and we'll see how that goes along. Not really sure to do what I'm going to do with all of the hidden items. I've seen some people where they color them just like a neutral color, like beige or something like that, and I might do that, but I have a feeling I'm just going to try and incorporate, like here, forgive my nails, here where it should be brown, this piece will be brown, and then this would take on whatever color the moon was there. So that's my thought, and we'll see where it goes. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to start with some Winsor & Newton gouache in permanent white. I've put a little in here, and I added a drop or so of water just to make it a little more fluid. So now that I've told you what I did, I don't know that I would recommend that you do it this way. Knowing what I know now, I would probably just go in with your colors, and then at the very end add the halo with possibly white gouache or even just your Posca pen. I don't know if it's because I'm impatient by nature. That has always been a struggle I have, is just being a little too impatient. I have sped this up, so this isn't necessarily real time, but the gouache adds a little bit of a texture, and while I knew that going in, I was hoping that it would work out just a little bit better than it did. I like the visual whiteness of the halo that this provides. However, where I needed to add a little bit of purple or other colored pencil, the colored pencil on it leaves a weird texture to it that you can see in the final piece. So if you want to, you can skip ahead to where we actually start coloring if you're going to skip this step. But I didn't want to just omit what I did. I wanted to show you the entire process, because I feel like on my channel I always want to show my successes and my my swing and a miss too, because we're all learning, and if you can learn something from this like I have, then I think there's benefit in keeping it in the color along. So I did speed this up quite a bit. So I'm going to start here with the leaves, with the idea being that if the leaves are colored, I'll have less chance of kind of messing them up when I am coloring the background, because that wax in the pencils will kind of act as a kind of a protective shield for my pencil to, you know, cover it when I'm coloring the main background. So I'm going in with just kind of I wanted a color that was kind of on the cooler side, something that was actually going to be used in the peacock itself to tie in these leaves to the birds. So I'm just going on one side of each leaf and adding a little bit of color. Because these leaves are so small, I'm not taking a huge amount of care. I'm just adding in a little color. Now on this side, I'm going in with the lighter color facing towards the moon, with the idea being that the moon is going to be providing a brighter light, and the darker edge of these vines and leaves would be on the farther edge. So I'm probably not going to do a lot of narration today. The neighbors are outside having a get together. We have some unexpected company, so my husband is entertaining, and it's just a little louder here in my house than I would like to record. So I'll just pop in here and there, mainly when I change colors, and give you my thoughts on things, and otherwise we'll just sit back and listen to some music. So now I'm going to go in with chartreuse and just keep adding a little bit of color to these leaves. And I wanted to add this color to add a little bit of warmth and a little bit of brightness to them. Okay, so here I'm going in with a dark green and gonna add this on the shadow side, so on the farthest side away from the moon, and also in the creases of the leaf where it would be kind of folded in. And you're probably looking at these colors and just being like, Wendy, what are you even thinking? But the next two colors I use will tie them all together and make them cohesive. So I think they turn out pretty well. But right now, they are looking a little hot mess. So going back to our light green color, I'm just kind of smoothing out some of the transition there and kind of filling in any white gaps that we have. and then I'll come back with a final color that'll kind of tone down the brightness of all of this. So as you can see here, the leaves were looking a little bright, so I come in with apple green, and I'm just going over the entire leaf, making sure to fill in any white spots, but also to go over the bluer tone of the light green, and just give it an overall unifying color. So I'm going to start with my lightest tone, and I'm going to do a very, very light layer over this entire tree trunk. Next I'm going to go in with sepia, and this will be my darkest tone, and I'm going to go in wherever you see the lines and that the artist made, which indicates her shadows, and I'm just adding a nice light layer into the knots, into anywhere that there would be overlapping pieces of wood or crevices. So along these little lines right here, and pretty much anywhere the artist said that there was shadow, but also anywhere that I felt like the light would be hidden. So on the underside of this branch, etc. Next I'm going in with light umber, and I'm basically going up next to the dark. I want to save my highlights, so you don't want to go over the entire branch. This is ultimately going to be the main color of the branch, But for now, we're going to go in and just butting up next to the darkest where I put the sepia tones, we're going to add a nice little layer of this light umber, but saving our highlights. So going back to our peach beige, we're going to add a little bit of color. Now here I'm switching to a 10% French gray, just to go ahead and mark in some of these highlights. I apologize for not having the right tag up, but this is 10% French gray. And I'm basically just blocking in all of those highlights. Now I'm going back to the peach beige and just kind of smoothing it all out, kind of going over everything and just blending it all in. Now I'm not burnishing it, so I'm not going in super hard to where I can't add any more layers, because I will go back with a darker shade to really bring out, and I'm just touching up an area that I missed there. But I'm going in with this peach beige just as a unifying color, just with a medium light pressure, I would say. Okay, so I'm back with my sepia, going into those, just the deepest shadows. Just really bringing those back out, because when you cover it over with the peach beige, it just kind of softens them a little bit. So we want to bring out kind of that more stark look. So just a little bit, just in the darkest areas. Doing the same thing with the light umber, just where you feel like it needs it. I want the overall tone of the wood to have some of the warmth of the light umber. Sepia and the French grays are both really cool colors, and I like having a mix of both. So next I'm going in with black, and I'm just adding a little bit to the, you see those little dark speckles on their belly. Now technically the feathers above this, in a peacock, like a real peacock, they have some black and white feathers. And in the end I decided I didn't really want to do that. So my husband calls these space peacocks. So let's get started on our peacocks. So I'm going over this entire area with this non-photo blue. I'm just adding ever so light of layer, because I'm going to be adding several layers to these birds. So I just go in very, very lightly. Next I'm going to go in with my next darkest blue, which is True Blue. And this time I'm concentrating more in the shadowy areas of the neck, under the head, and kind of along the back on this one, because that's where the author has put the shading. Next I'm adding Cobalt Blue. Once again, just sticking to those darker areas. Next I'm going in with the darkest blue, a Danthrodone blue, I don't know how you say it, but anyway, I'm going in with the darkest shade here, just on the edges there. Now I'm starting in on the main feathers. I'm using a light aqua, and I'm just going to, I'm not being specific to the feather, I'm just adding color. So I chose to do it this way as opposed to specifically making each feather look the same. I felt like that would give it too much of a pattern, so I wanted to go in and just make it a little more random, maybe is the word. So I'm just going in and applying these colors just here and there. Next, I'm going to do the same thing using that light green that we used in the leaves. So just adding a little bit of color to each feather with no specific rhyme or reason as to where I'm adding them. Not to sound like a broken record, but I'm doing the same thing with the violet blue. Now this time I am trying to put it more in areas where I feel like there would be a shadow or a darker area, usually indicated by where the artist put the darker lines. But once again, not terribly specific, but just adding it here and there. Whatever feels right. Now going back to the impronounceable blue, we're adding it here to the back of the head, just deepening those shadows again, or deepening that color. But now I'm going to take it down into these other feathers and concentrating on the very ends of the feather, just the tips. I just want to bring some distinction to each of those feather clumps by adding the darker blue in there. Now I'm going to the cobalt blue, which was my next lightest blue, and I'm just going to work my way up these feathers with this blue. Working my way backwards using the same colors that I used on the head. So true blue is next. And now coming in with our non-photo blue. Now I'm going to tie it all together with light aqua. Just going over everything. Once again, not burnishing on this step, just blending the colors out in these feathers just to kind of fill in some of the white spots and kind of soften some of those blues. Taking it down a little bit into the rest of the feathers, just adding a little of that color in there. Now with my darkest color, once again, I'm looking for areas that would have shadow, trying to distinguish between feather clumps, any place that the artist put a dark mesh of lines. I want to put my darkest blue just to give a little bit of contrast to where these feathers don't just look like blah. You know, we want to add a little bit of that darker color. And then coming in with the next lightest color, which was the cobalt, and just adding in a little bit of this color. I want all colors of the bird to be, that we've used in the feathers in this. So all the blues from the head, plus the teals and blues that we used in the other feathers. Touch this up as you deem fit. There's no right or wrong here. Now I am going in with aquamarine and just add in a little bit of a richer teal or aquamarine. Here I'm going to go over everything with sky blue light. Once again, not really burnishing here, just a nice light layer to fill in any white that's showing. Any missing areas will fill with this color, but it also just kind of ties them all together, blends them out a little. So here I'm going back in and adding in the black just to deepen it, since I put the blue on the bellies. I'm also adding some black up in these upper corners where I just want my color to be a little deeper and a little darker. I'm adding a very, very light layer. Here I'm coming in and starting the first color of the actual halo. I want the area at the top of the moon to be darker with patches of lightness, so I'm just making just a random pattern, kind of allowing for some lighter colors in between, much like you would a galaxy. So this is just the initial laydown, just kind of plotting in where they go, so to speak. As I add this lavender, you're really going to start to see what I was talking about with the gouache. There are parts, like right here where I'm working, where you can see that little bit of a darker line. That's what I was talking about with the gouache and the texture, and you'll see more of it as we go. but essentially I just want to add a lighter layer here just to bring out the glow effect, so to speak. Now that I've added in my halo, now I can go back and start adding in the darks and working my way towards the lighter colors. I'm adding in this deeper blue just to bring in a little bit of variance to the sky. You could leave this out if you don't like the blue tone that it adds, and just keep working your way to your lighter colors. Now I'm going back in with this violet and just covering over what we've already done. Here I'm going back in with the lilac and just adding in, kind of plotting out the lighter colors in the moon. So here I'm using the white. I want the lower part of this moon to be lighter and more white here at the bottom. And so I'm going around all of the edges of the ring and of the moon itself just to add a little softness and a little more brightness with the white. Just deepening up these colors. I want to save a little bit of that white in the moon, so I'll keep working towards it, but still not going 100%. So starting on the flowers, I'm bringing in that deep purple that we used in the sky, and I'm just going along the artist's lines, adding in some shadows. And I'm going to do this for all the flowers. Next I'm going in with Dahlia Purple, and I'm basically doing the same thing. I'm just adding some lines along those shadowy areas. Just using kind of a medium light pressure, just kind of mapping out those shadows. Now I'm essentially doing the same thing with the Deco Pink, only this time I'm kind of going over a little bit more of it, not so much just these single lines as just kind of filling in the gaps between these colors. Not a full-on blending, but definitely adding more of this color and kind of going over the other colors. Now with this lavender, I'm definitely going over the majority of the petal. I'm not going, I guess I do go all the way to the tips, but I'm kind of experimenting here to see what I like on this flower. I decided I wanted a little more of a pink color, so I went in with this hot pink and was just kind of blending it at the base of the flower. Now coming in with white on the ends here, kind of lightening up those tips. Now I'm coming back in with my deeper shade just along the very edge of the petal, just really deepening those shadows, bringing in a little contrast. So I like the white on the tips, so I decide that for the other flowers I'm going to add the white first, just to kind of maintain my highlight to where I have a little more white than I do on that bottom flower. So I'm going to do this white on all the flowers. Now I'm going to just go in and repeat the process for all the different flowers. Here I go in and I'm coloring these little berries. And I'm not trying to cover 100% of the berries. I want to maintain just a hint of the white here and there. I'll be going back in with another color as well. Here I'm going to go in and I'm going to add little pops of yellow to these centers. I haven't really added any yellow to the rest of the page, so I want this to be a minimal amount of color, and I will be adding other colors as well. I add this dahlia purple to the yellow just for variation of color, but also to tamp down the brightness of the yellow. Now I am going to add yellow into the ring and into the bird's feet and beak. Now let's start working on the water. I'm going to add this light blue, or this non-photo blue. I'm going very, very lightly, just mapping in the colors. Now I'm going to come in with a cobalt blue, a little darker blue, and I'm going to work here just on the sides and the bottom. I don't want to bring it into that lighter area between the two birds. Now I'm going to come in with an even deeper blue, and I'm going to add it to the sides again. I want the sides of the water to be darker, and then that area in between the two birds will be our lightest spot to indicate reflections of water or reflections of the moon on the water. I decide to kind of push into this section in the middle with just a hint of color on the side. I felt like it looked too stark just being completely white, so I wanted to kind of blend these darker tones in. Here I'm coming in with just a battery operated eraser, just trying to add in a little highlight area on my moon. I really wanted this edge down here at the bottom to be bright, and by erasing off the color it was almost like I was adding white, which worked out kind of nice. Although you will see that I do add white at the end. I decided I wanted a little more contrast in the birds, so I went back in with the deepest color, just adding that to the shadowy areas. From this point on, I'm just kind of adding things as I see them, adding a little more pink or adding a little more purple. I'm also going to be working on smoothing out the sky and adding more color to the water, so I'll mostly do music throughout this. I apologize. I thought I would have a more quiet environment when I did this voiceover. So we'll catch up on the next one. So at this point I use a fitness blender, which is just another brand. Quite honestly, I'm torn about it because on the one hand, I do like that it smoothed it out. But it does leave it a little streaky. You can kind of see the streaks. And I wasn't sure if I went back over it, if that would help or not. You can really see it in the moon, in those middle purple tones. Now I have a piece of paper here because you always want to wipe off your blender in between colors because it will pick up, especially those deeper tones. You can see me scribbling those off. Here I just had a Sparkle Pop Gold Gel pen. I really like the Sparkle Pop pens, guys. They're awesome. Now I'm adding a milky white sparkle. It's Pentel makes these pens, the Milky Pop White Gel pen. But you could add a Posca pen, you could add a Jelly Roll, whatever white pen you have. But basically I'm just going in and adding in a little bit of white. Here I'm adding some green acrylic paint pen. Just, I had kind of covered over one of the vine, and then I decided I would just add a little bit to each leaf to give it a little pop of color. Here I go in and I deepen the shadows. Just taking that darkest color, that sepia, and going back in and just adding a little more, dark to the darkest darks. So now I'm going to work on the moon. I go in with my white Posca paint pen, and I just want to add this to that lower ridge. I really want that lower part of the moon to be brighter. So I'm kind of going in. As you can see in this area, this is what I was talking about with that weird texture from the gouache. And so that's why I was thinking if I had to do it over again, I would probably skip the gouache at the beginning and just add it here like I'm doing now. At this point, I decide to add a little bit of pinkish color to the moon. Guys, I've really enjoyed being with you today. I appreciate you following along. I apologize that it wasn't the voiceover and the chat that I wanted this video to be. But I'm getting close to 500 subscribers, and at that point I'm going to do a get to know me and Ellie and introduce my face to the channel. So hit that like and subscribe and help me get to 500, and we'll see you on the next one.